Hey everybody, Dimitri here with Serg Supply. We're standing in front of a partially gutted transit trail behind us. And if you're watching this video, either you've purchased one of our kits, you're looking to purchase one of our kits, or you're doing it yourself and you just need to know where to tuck those wires. So today, I'm gonna walk you through how we do a wire tuck. It's gonna be short and quick, and it's not as hard as you think, I promise.
Audio Jungle.
I wanna start this video real quick by stepping back here. This is the driver's side wall, and making a quick note that this section right here, regardless of what model transit you have, it's going to be the same. Whether or not you have the short or long or extended version, that all changes back here. You don't have to worry about it up there. So the front half is as follows. Instead of tucking our wiring harness right through that plastic channel that covers up our whole wall, we're going to go up over the ceiling here, round beam number 1, round beam number 2, and then everything after this line right here is where the vans get different. So regardless of model, we tuck into the walls right here. It runs behind the walls all down this stretch, and then we have a very large opening just about here where that Y of the wire can split off. Some of it goes down to there. The rest of it goes right back up, travels over the top. There we go, and then it splits off again. And this is kind of how it was before we started. That's how the finished wiring runs. Our wall panel kits have been completely reconfigured to fit this way. I can give you a look at those wall panels in case you guys are curious. But generally, when it's finished, that is how our wiring runs. Now, let me show you some of the trickier parts. One of the first things you're going to want to do is track where all the wiring harness wires go. Now, the number one thing is there are these grounding sections on both sides, passenger and driver. And then there is another wire harness that runs up this way behind this shroud that you can unclip and unplug. Do not tear on any of the plugs. Make sure you're gentle with them. We also have a few wires that are all accessible through here. The main one I wanted to point out, actually, the one that may be the most confusing, I'll actually go to the other side since I've already undone it. If you look right here, ladies and gentlemen, we have this guy here. Now, this is for your tail light. You will have to undo 1 and 2 screws for your tail light. Otherwise, they're just these clips that pop into these holes. The whole assembly comes off. You will want to undo this plug and push this rubber grommet here all the way through. That thing will go through your wall, no problems at all. And then the other section of wiring that comes out, you will actually have to remove this air filter. So you will undo this plastic cover here on the back of your vehicle, and then this air filter comes right out, and then you'll have access to the other plugs. I'm fairly certain they are sensors for your parking sensors, a bumper, but that is where they live. This can go right back in place when you're done, along with the cover. Let me scooch around to this side now. It's gonna be the same thing here. I actually didn't put the light back on. I'm gonna attempt here to pop it off without breaking anything. There we go. And I don't know if you folks can see this, but there she is. Real simple. It's not rocket science. It's nothing crazy. Whew. Okay, I finally finished pretending like I can get that light on properly on my own. It's not as hard as it looks, but definitely hard when you're holding the camera. This one's still off, but here's another look at where some of those plugs are located. We didn't clip any of these back in just yet, but there are other harnesses you need to keep an eye out here for that are slightly harder to locate. I believe this one has something to do with the sliding door mechanism, but you pull all these out, you get all these grounds out, and you can fish. You're going to start from this end anyway, but you're fishing this wire up through the wall, out of there, undoing all of those clips, and at this point you're going to start fishing those guys out. There's a bundle in there for a shore power and the EcoFlow. You can ignore that, but it's essentially the same thing here with the tail light coming in, all those plugs in there, pulling all of this out. And eventually you have a big mess of cables that used to run along this track. It's kind of dangling from here. Now, you may ask the question, why don't you drill holes through, your walls? Why don't you make grommets and pass these through? This, oh my Lord. Okay, so this stuff right here is not your standard wall panel sheet metal. This, I believe it's a boron infused steel. It is nearly impossible to drill through unless you have the right tools. And frankly, you shouldn't touch it either way. It's kind of structural. So by going up here, both the Go Code kit and the factory foam blob will cover this. This is no problem at all. Our ceiling kit goes along this level. Our wall panel kit just about comes up here to meet it. So there's a small bit of wire showing, but we've accommodated for that in our kits, and we have caps that cover it. This also has a notch in our wall panel kits. The only other advice I could give you is go really slow. Take your time, especially through this hole here, pushing plugs in one at a time. It doesn't need to be difficult. Just be very gentle on your plugs, and don't forget to take out any insulation you have in here. There are usually 2 plugs up here for your tail light and your reverse camera or parking sensors. You want to take those guys out too. Other than that, the rest is pretty simple. The only other note I would love to add is that this guy here, I don't know if you can see it, it's wise to unplug that before you start. And if you have the factory harness, we actually have ours tucked away here. If you can see it, there's nothing in it. But there is sometimes, and usually, a factory wiring harness that comes over this beam and pops into the beam. You're going to want to undo those wires. And if you've made it to the end, I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning. The last tip I have is take that seat off and undo your hot battery cables. You don't want to do this with live wire, especially on these lights. Some of these endings are exposed for the overhead lights. You don't want to short anything or blow any fuses. So take your time, go slow. It's not a very fun process, but it's not a very difficult one. It's certainly not as difficult as you might think. In any case, I hope you guys take a crack at this. It's really not so difficult. It takes in total one person, probably somewhere around an hour or two, a maximum of 2 hours to get this done. Just be meticulous, undo those plugs one at a time. Don't pull, rip, tear, splice, anything. And if I hadn't already mentioned it, I know I have, but I'm being redundant here. Unplug the battery terminals before you begin. You don't want to short anything or blow any fuses. So yeah, I hope you guys found this video useful. If you're using some of our products, thank you for supporting us and choosing Serg Supply. We hope you love your kit. In any case, thanks again for watching, and happy building.